The day had started quietly enough. A warm breeze swept across the backyard as I watched my 10-year-old son, Eli, crouched in the grass with Snowball, his beloved white cat. Eli was a fragile boy, born with a congenital heart defect. His life had been a series of surgeries, medications, and hospital stays. His thin frame and pale complexion told the story of a child who had fought harder in 10 years than most did in a lifetime. "Stay close to the house, Eli," I called out from the porch. "And don't let Snowball wander off." "I won't, Mom," he said with a soft smile, stroking the cat's fur. Snowball purred loudly, arching into his touch. For Eli, she wasn't just a pet. She was a lifeline, a quiet source of comfort through the long, lonely hospital nights. The moment shattered like glass when a shrill voice cut through the air. "You again! I told you about that animal." I turned to see Karen Peterson storming across the street, her face twisted with rage. Karen, the president of our HOA, had made it her personal mission to harass us ever since we moved in. She'd complained about everything: our mailbox color, the length of our grass, and especially Snowball. But this time was different. This time, she was holding a gun. "Karen, what are you doing?" I shouted, stepping off the porch. "That filthy beast is destroying the neighborhood," she screamed, waving the pistol wildly. "You've been warned about letting it roam." "She's not hurting anyone." I cried, moving between her and Eli. My heart pounded as I realized the gun wasn't just for show. Karen raised the weapon, her finger tightening on the trigger. And then it happened. The sharp crack of the gunshot split the air. My ears rang as I turned in time to see Eli stumble backward, clutching his chest. Blood spread across his small shirt like a blooming flower. "Eli!" I screamed, running to him as he collapsed. His wide eyes locked on mine, full of pain and fear. "Mom, Snowball okay?" he whispered weakly, his voice barely audible. "Yes, baby. Don't talk. Stay with me," I begged, pressing my hands against the wound as tears blurred my vision. Karen stood frozen, the gun dangling in her trembling hand. But I didn't care about her anymore. All that mattered was saving my son. My hands shook as I pressed against Eli's chest, desperately trying to stop the bleeding. His small body felt too light in my arms, and his breaths came shallow and ragged. "Stay with me, Eli. Please, baby, don't close your eyes." I cried, my tears splashing onto his pale face. "Mom, hurts," he whispered, his voice barely audible. His lips were turning a faint shade of blue. My heart clenched. With his weak heart, even a minor injury could be catastrophic. A bullet wound. I couldn't let my mind go there. "Help us! Someone help us!" I screamed into the neighborhood. Karen stood a few feet away, still holding the gun like a child clutching a toy she didn't understand. Her face was pale, but her mouth trembled in defense. I didn't mean he wasn't supposed to call 911. I shrieked, "Now!" But she didn't move. Thankfully, Mr. Jenkins from 2 houses down sprinted over with his phone, already to his ear. "Paramedics are on the way," he shouted, kneeling beside me. "Keep pressure on it. Don't let up." "I know," I said, choking on a sob. "I can't lose him. I can't." The wail of sirens grew louder, but time felt like it was moving through molasses. Every second Eli's eyelids fluttered sent panic screaming through me. "Snowball's safe," he murmured, his words slurred. "Yes, sweetheart. She's okay," I whispered, my voice breaking. "You're the one I need to stay safe now." The paramedics burst into the yard moments later, carrying a stretcher. Gunshot wound to the chest, pediatric patient, one barked into his radio. They worked quickly, cutting open Eli's shirt and attaching monitors as they lifted him. "Is he stable?" I demanded, running alongside them as they wheeled him to the ambulance. "Pulse is weak. We're doing everything we can," one medic said firmly. "You're coming with us." I climbed into the ambulance, clutching Eli's small, bloodied hand. "Don't leave me, baby. Don't you dare leave me." As the doors slammed shut and the sirens wailed, I caught one last glimpse of Karen in the street, her face blank with shock as police cars screeched to a halt around her. But I didn't care. All I could see was my son's face, and all I could hear was the steady beeping of the monitor a fragile lifeline holding him to this world. The hospital smelled of antiseptic and fear. I paced the cold tile floor, my hands still stained with Eli's blood. Every passing second felt like a lifetime. Through the double doors, I'd seen them wheel him into surgery, his small chest rising and falling too shallowly. "Mrs. Carter?" A voice said softly. I turned to see two police officers standing there, solemn expressions on their faces. "We're very sorry about your son," the taller one began. "Can you tell us exactly what happened?" I clenched my fists to stop them from shaking. "Karen Peterson. She's the HOA president. She's been harassing us for months about her cat. Today, she brought a gun. She aimed it at Snowball. Eli," my voice cracked. "Eli tried to protect her. He stepped in the way." The shorter officer scribbled notes furiously. "We have neighbors' statements that support your account, and security footage from across the street confirms she fired intentionally." "She meant to kill our cat?" I said bitterly. "But she almost killed my son instead. We'll be charging her with reckless discharge of a firearm and possibly attempted murder depending on the DA," the officer said. "She's in custody now." I barely heard him. My mind was still in that yard, watching Eli's small body crumple. Hours later, a doctor in blue scrubs finally emerged. "Mrs. Carter? Your son made it through surgery," he said, gently. "The bullet punctured his lung, but we repaired the damage. His heart, it's very weak, but he's stable for now." A sob escaped my lips as my knees buckled. "Can I see him?" "Soon. He needs to rest." I pressed a hand to my mouth to muffle the sobs. Eli had survived, but Karen's face burned in my mind, her finger on that trigger. She would pay for this. By the next morning, Karen's name was all over the news. Local HOA president arrested after 10-year-old boy critically wounded, the headline read. The video played on my phone. Karen in handcuffs, her face pale and twisted in defiance as reporters shouted questions. "I didn't mean to shoot him. It was an accident," she screeched, her floral blouse rumpled. But the neighbors weren't buying it. "She's been a menace for years," Mr. Jenkins told a camera crew. "Threatening people about fences, mailboxes, pets. Now she's finally crossed the line." At the hospital, Eli stirred in his bed, his eyes fluttering open. "Mom," he whispered, his voice hoarse. "I'm here, baby," I said, gripping his hand gently. "You're safe now." "Snowball okay?" he asked faintly. "Yes, sweetheart. She's fine. And so are you." But as I watched his fragile chest rise and fall, my rage hardened into resolve. Karen wasn't going to get away with calling this an accident. Not while my son lay here fighting for his life. 3 months later, I sat in a courtroom, my palms sweaty but my spine straight. Karen sat across from me at the defendant's table, her once smug face pale and tight. "Your Honor," her lawyer began, "this was a tragic accident. My client was merely trying to protect the neighborhood. She aimed a gun at a cat," the prosecutor cut in sharply. "A 10-year-old child took the bullet. That is not an accident." I took the stand, my hands trembling slightly as I looked at the jury. "My son was born with a heart defect," I said, my voice steady despite the lump in my throat. "He's been fighting for his life since the day he was born. Karen Peterson almost took that life because she hates animals." Witness after witness testified about Karen's temper, her history of threats, her obsession with control. It took the jury less than 2 hours to return. "Guilty," the foreman said. Karen sobbed as the judge pronounced her sentence, 15 years in prison without parole. Outside, reporters swarmed me. "Do you have anything to say, Mrs. Carter?" I looked down at Eli, standing beside me with Snowball cradled in his arms. "My son is alive. That's all that matters. But let this be a lesson. No one is above the law, not even an HOA president." Eli smiled faintly. "Can we go home now, Mom?" "Yes, sweetheart," I whispered, hugging him close. "Let's go home."